Hey everybody, welcome and good morning. Happy Friday. Jeff and I are looking forward to sitting down and talking to Jared Rothberger, who is a CEO at Jan Supply and Jan Pro Detroit. Jared, it's good to have you on the show today. Jeff and I are looking forward to jumping in and talking not only about sales, but leadership and staying safe with COVID. And I want to start off because I think it's important for people to kind of get some understanding quickly. You are a janitorial supply company, and COVID has really elevated your business significantly. So in just a couple sentences, share with everybody a little bit about what you do in general. So that way we can, and then we'll kind of evolve the discussion from there.
Sure. So first of all, thanks for having me on. It's great to be talking to you guys. 5 years ago, we started a janitorial service company, Jan Pro, and around a little less than a year ago, it was time to move into the supply business. So started getting some supplies, working on supplying some of our franchise owners and local businesses with toilet paper, paper towel, hand soap, sanitizer, that kind of stuff. And then the coronavirus hit and just kind of changed business for us forever.
Yeah. So I want to jump into that because from a sales perspective, you bring up a couple really interesting things, right? So you have this company, Jan Pro. You have this idea, I'll call it for the sake of discussion, a plan B, another tentacle of the business. You have this idea that you actually executed on, right? And not knowing, none of us knew COVID was around the corner. You had this idea you executed on. And then when COVID hit, you were prepared with both businesses to serve your clients. And so what I really want to jump into is the instincts of the idea and turning that into something, into a sales part of your business. Because I think where a lot of people who are watching and in general miss is they have the idea, but the execution, the mental toughness, the discipline, the planning to do the extra work and get out of their comfort zone is challenging. So just kind of take us through that.
Yeah. As with anything, you have to be ready. When life punches you in the face, you have to get back up and figure out how to react and how to push forward and get back up. And that's what COVID did. And it knocked a lot of businesses out. And it knocked a lot of people down, and we happened to be in a position where we were ready. We were ready with supplies. We were ready with that supply chain in place, and because of that, we were able to pivot our focus to the supplies and getting those in the hands of residential customers, business customers, and being able to have access to hand sanitizer and toilet paper when there was a massive shortage, gloves now that there's a shortage, having the things that people need, it makes sales easy. It's just a matter of putting it in everybody's hands.
Right. So you talked about something that I think is so important, which is reacting. And it's so hard for so many people to, kind of shift gears, and in sales and in business and whatnot. It's so important to be able to do that and to react. How did you react in regards to like your staffing and having, the appropriate people in place? Because I'm sure that the volume is just insane now. It's got to be just crazy.
It's definitely been interesting, but again, it goes back to being prepared. Luck comes into play whenever things are going to break your way. Sometimes things are going to go the other way other times, but it's how prepared you are to capitalize on that luck. And I'm of the mindset that I'd rather hire early and be prepared for positions and be prepared for that growth than being reactive in that situation. And okay, well, now we have to hire 5 people, and then you got to train them, and so I was already slightly overstaffed when the pandemic hit. And I did have to staff up a little bit. We had to find delivery drivers and fill some other roles, but For the most part, it was, I have great people in place, and we had worked hard and spent a lot of time preparing for, our businesses.
So go ahead, Jeff. Do you have a follow up on that?
No, I just a comment, and I think, having, and we kind of do the same thing as well in our company. And, what I hear you saying is that, you were betting on yourself, and, just being over prepared and looking to the future and doing that is great. So I commend you on that.
Yeah. Where everyone on this call does sales. Everybody on this call owns their own company. And so I want to talk a little bit about recruiting for a second, because I've been on a couple interviews this week where we've talked a lot about that. And I've been at a couple meetings with clients this week where they've talked about they didn't know if they wanted to hire too early. And I am also of the mindset you hire early. I interviewed a guy the other day with Randy Denhaw. His name was John Murphy. His nickname was Murph. Murph. And he talked about, he scales companies to sell them. And he was talking about that every company really needs a 13-week cash flow analysis for forecasting and projecting. And I thought, and I love the way that he put that. I mean, a lot of times I'm talking about forecasting, projecting, but he talked about this 13-week forecast. And what I loved about it is, you have to forecast and project at minimum 13 weeks out, be able to reverse engineer and hire for what you're talking about, Jared, preparing for. And I think a lot of people, like to your point, Jeff, react and don't hire the sales people. They don't hire the executive assistant. They're not betting on themselves or investing. And that is very, in my opinion, very backwards. Because if you can forecast effectively, you should be hiring early. So my question is, how do you forecast, Jared, right, on who to hire? And then what is your recruiting process to make sure you hire great? Because today you can't hire mediocre, you must hire great.
Yeah. So in the janitorial side of the business, it's actually very predictable. I can tell you at what benchmarks we're going to be, looking for another inspector and another, operations person, maybe another salesperson. It's based on our growth and based on the size at the time. And I agree. I think, training and having a good runway, whether it's 13 weeks or 6 weeks or whatever it is for that position, but making sure that you bring someone on, not when everybody's stressed out, not when everybody's overworked, but you're bringing someone on when the person who's going to train them has the time to train them and get them up to speed so that they can hit the ground running when it's time. And when it comes to, I think the second part of your question was recruiting.
Yeah.
What I look for is, someone with a strong work ethic and someone who's going to have a positive attitude and someone who's going to be honest. If you have those three things, if you have the work ethic, the attitude, and good character, you're going to be honest. We can get through anything. So
yeah. So one of the things that you're saying is so important to have a positive attitude. And I've had this conversation with John. I've had this conversation with my partner too. And is it more important to find somebody who has the most experience? Like in what I do, oftentimes you may find somebody with a ton of experience. They've been doing this for 30 years, and but they're set in their ways, and they're just stuck in the grind, and they may not have the most positive of attitudes. And I've come to the realization that sometimes especially for office staff and salespeople, having a positive attitude can't be taught. So it just kind of leads me to my question. So when you're recruiting, do you have somewhat of a grading type system that you utilize, and there's boxes that are checked off?
It's not really a grading system. I mean, first and foremost, my wife has 10 years, 15 years of HR experience. So she does all first interviews. So that really helps because it eliminates a lot of that.
That keeps them real.
Yeah, that keeps them real. Yeah.
That's it. By my wife, then that's a little bit easier. But beyond that, I'm really looking for someone that is not going to mess up the culture at the office, because one of the biggest strengths that we have is not just a positive attitude, but the way that the staff interacts with each other, and making sure you avoid any sort of toxic work environment, because it has to be the type of situation where everyone can grow in their position, everyone can really excel at what they do, and again, if they have the positive attitude, the work ethic, and the integrity, then you're going to get good results.
Yeah. So, you know what? I love that. When I worked at Marcus and Millichat, we had to do a ton of recruiting. I mean, a ton of recruiting. And so this was a question. You talk about grading, Jeff. This was a question that I came up with, and it was my favorite question, and it really worked. I would say to people, on a scale from 1 to 10, how badly do you want to sell investment real estate? And a lot of times they'd sit there and be like, maybe about a 6. And I would end the interview.
Bye.
Yeah, I would say, I only want to talk to people who are 10 or above.
Right.
And it amazed me how many, people I hired that were, before I asked the question, that turned out to be those numbers, but you don't realize it. But if you ask measurable, as you're talking about, how do you grade? I found asking that measurable grading question, people didn't know, couldn't answer it, couldn't fake it. They would say, "Oh, I wanted to be a 12. My grandfather did it. My dad was in it." I look at buildings versus the person that comes in dressed to the nines and says, "Nah, about a 7. I'm interviewing a ton of other places." That was a great question.
I'm taking notes. This is good.
Yeah, take notes.
I like that.
So let's talk about COVID, Jared. Jeff brings up something I think that's so spot on, which is how you are rallying your troops and talking to your people, and then there's the other side of that, which is your clients, who are, I think, in a mode where the supplies that you're selling, there is a desperateness to get them, a fear to make sure that they don't run out. And an urgency for everything. And so from a sales perspective, how are you, and you touched on your team, how you're kind of effectively communicating with your team and your culture, but how are you doing that with your clients?
So it just comes down to communication, staying in touch with our customers, staying in touch with our franchise owners, staying in touch with the general community, and just letting them know that we have these products. When COVID hit, we lost about a third of our janitorial customers overnight. I mean, everyone was either on pause, or it was like March 23rd, I think was the date, where every business, half the businesses in the state shut down. And that means that they didn't need janitorial service. So when that happened, we needed some other revenue stream to still be able to pay everybody. And so, that's really when the supply, it was janitorial supply, and then it just completely shifted once COVID hit. So it's all been solid communication, staying in touch with our customers, staying in touch with our franchise owners, and letting them know that we have these other offerings. And it's helped with our retention. It's helped keep our customers at ease that, we're going to be there for them in their time of need. And then when the janitorial comes back, they're calling us and restarting.
Yeah.
Right. And that puts you, that puts you in an even busier spot, because as we know, this COVID is, it's not going anywhere anytime soon, unfortunately. And, there's a piece to that is, it's emotional, like John's saying, you're reaching out to these people. There's a desperation. They have, a need. that is to make sure that they're keeping their people safe, and you're providing something, to do that. Do you have, like, so as far as like particular salespeople, how many staff do you have, and how are you kind of, putting them in a position to think the same way you are, and make sure that they're just communicating with their clients and understanding the emotional piece of this, and making sure that they're getting that message out?
So we have about 16, 17 people between the two companies. And it's just training everybody to have empathy when they talk to customers and when they talk to franchise owners. We understand this is a very, very difficult time. And again, it goes back to, we try to be as flexible as we can, so that if a customer calls us and says, I'm not sure I can pay this bill this month, not a problem. We're happy to pause. We're happy to delay that payment. We know that while businesses are getting knocked down, that most of them are going to be able to get back up, and we just want to work with them. So them knowing that we're gonna show that empathy, and them understanding that we're gonna, again, be there for them. That's what we've been emphasizing with the staff, making sure that everybody knows that we're not the bad guy. We're all in this together, and we're going to be here for our customers. And I think showing some loyalty to them will help them show loyalty to us down the road, when they start opening more facilities, and they tell their friends which vendors were there for them and which ones kind of bailed on them.
Yeah, I mean, loyalty. You say loyalty, John. We were in the same business. This is just kind of a comment, but creating loyalty, I think, is one of the biggest things. That we talk about too with our sales team, and being in real estate, title insurance, it is an unloyal business. Sometimes people, they just say, yeah, you know what, I'm going to start using this person, or I'm just going to use this person for title insurance, or what have you. And he who creates loyalty in what I do, and creates value for themselves, like you're doing, is wins in the end. So you're certainly on the right track with that.
Yeah. But you got to differentiate yourself. I mean, I'm in a commodity business. To get a janitorial crew, there are hundreds and hundreds of us in the state. I mean, it's not that difficult to pick up the phone, and there's 100 different companies within 5 miles of where you are.
Right.
Because there's no barrier to entry into janitorial. That being said, to find a professional company where you can get that kind of service, where that they're using the right chemicals, the right insurance, the right, that's where it becomes a big differentiator. And that's where we try to, excel.
Right. Well, you bring up a good point, right? It's you're saying it's a commodity business. I'll redefine that a little bit to, we're all in the attention grabbing business, right? There are a ton of choices. The barriers to entry, because of things like this and technology, are much lower. The key then is execution and how you can keep people's attention. And so, from a sales perspective, as well as from just a branding and marketing perspective, how are you using social media, video, etc., to keep people's attention and sell your services?
So right now, the current campaign that we have going is clean like a pro or hire the pros. So we have a bunch of videos going. There's some stuff on our Facebook and Instagram and on social. But it's basically, look, a lot of people are trying to do it themselves and they don't know what they're doing. So why not come to Jan Supply, visit our website, and you can get hospital grade disinfectants. You can make sure you're getting a chemical that's actually going to kill COVID. You can understand how those work, how that process works. You can even call us and we're happy to walk you through the process of how to use some of those chemicals and different cleaners. Or if you're a business, you can hire us to clean your business, and you know it's going to be done the right way. And it comes back to positioning ourselves as a company that has the professionalism, that isn't a commodity, and that can sort of rise above the cleaning companies that are out there.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think, that's super smart because, and I think it's another thing that kind of goes back to creating loyalty too, is educating people and informing them on, listen, if you don't want us, maybe you can't afford for us to come in and do this thing ourselves, but here's how we do it. Here's the chemicals that we utilize. And, that's just another thing too, that, differentiates yourself from everybody else. But I have kind of like a follow-up question to what John was saying in regards to social media. Were you on social media and doing this at the level that you are prior to COVID? Or do you think that this has kind of jump-started that more so for you?
It's definitely increased. We were doing, a lot of advertising, a lot of marketing on social. But again, the Jan Supply, that second company is, it was started in November. So, yes, it kind of lines up with COVID, but I don't know that it's necessarily because of COVID that our social presence has increased as much as it has. But we did hire an internal resource during COVID to kind of bolster our social media presence. So we've got someone started just a few weeks ago that has already kind of updated and upgraded Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, LinkedIn, and going through all that. So
my 2 cents, whatever you're doing, double it. When you get to that point, double that. You got to keep on doubling what you're doing, especially right now, because it's harder to get people's attention. You need to provide tons of content, tons of education. We're talking that builds into the theme we're talking about, loyalty, right? Providing education, rich content. Most people don't do it. Most people don't double because they don't want to take the time to actually create the content. Right. So I love to have somebody internally, because that person should be doubling, and that's how you keep people's attention. So
constantly adding content, absolutely.
Right. Double it.
I think it's smart. I mean, and like you're saying, people don't double it because it's just hard, and it takes time to do it. I mean, we. On our side, I have certain people who don't do it at all. I was one of those guys who just never, I never did it. It was awkward. Like doing stuff like this was to me was like, I'm frightened of it. That's the other reason why people don't do it, is they get scared to, put themselves out there. So that was just a comment.
So I'm reading a book right now. It's called 75 Hard. You guys know about it?
No.
So it's I always butcher this guy's name. It's Andy Frisella. And so it was sent to me. I'm doing this thing called 75 Hard. And so Ursula Mullen, she works over at Adobe. She's actually she's partners with Vic. Remember we interviewed Vic today?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So she's partnered with Vic. So I had seen this thing forever. She had posted that she was doing it. So I started it. I was on like day 25. But forgot 2 of the days. So I started over. So she sent me this book yesterday. So I thought, I'm starting over the 75. And so it's basically a workout of 75 days, and it revolves around severe mental toughness, right? And so that's what we're talking about a lot today, right? Because all you have to do is the following. You have to work out twice a day, 1 workout, and then 1 outside, which means you can go for a walk, right? They just want you in nature. You need to take a progress picture every day, read 10 pages every day, drink a gallon of water, follow a diet, and no cheat meals or alcohol for 75 days. And so the reason I started it over was because Ursula sent me this book, right? So she's like this dynamic social media person. She's, a top agent with Vic over at Adobe. And so I thought, all right, I'm going to read the book and start over. And the book is all about mental toughness. And that's what we're talking about in today's world, right? You've got to be mentally tough. You've got to execute. You've got to pour in content, and just to stay ahead. So my question, Jared, for you is, how are you going to, when COVID goes away, right? When COVID is not an issue, how are you going to continue to ride the momentum? How are you planning for post-COVID? And what are you going to do the next 75 days?
Well, I don't know that we have a specifically 75-day plan.
Right, no, I know that I was trying to tie in the book.
No, I know, you did great.
Thank you, Ursula, for the book.
It was great. But that's obviously a huge focus for us, is making sure that we can convert, because we know that COVID is going to go away at some point, hopefully sooner rather than later.
Yes.
And when it does, sales of hand sanitizer and wipes and gloves are going to significantly dip. Our goal right now is to kind of leverage COVID to get more of our customers, more of our franchise owners, more of our already our captive audience to buy toilet paper, hand soap, sanitizer, paper towel, the regular business products that they would be ordering, whether it was COVID time or not COVID time. And then they know that if there is another H1N1 or another, swine flu or whatever it is,
right,
in a few years, that we're also going to be ready for that and able to handle that when the time comes. But again, it just comes down to, turning some of our janitorial customers into supply customers, so that they stick with us. I mean, the more hooks you have in a customer and the more services you're providing a customer, the longer they're going to stay with you and the more value you provide. And it just moves you farther and farther and farther away from being that commodity. So that's our focus right now.
Well, that's well said. Those are mic drop statements where you want to, or a pen drop. But
that's what I got.
You do. You want to be able to provide services that are in alignment not only with your core focus, but that serve a purpose to your clients, and that's what glues them. So well said, Jared. Before we move into the speed round, tell everybody who your ideal clients are.
Our ideal client is any business, any size that has a facility that needs cleaning. So if you have a janitorial crew, it could be 1,500 square feet or 50,000 or 500,000 square feet. Doesn't matter. We buildings all shapes, sizes. It can be industrial, schools, office buildings, medical buildings, little fitness centers. Doesn't matter. If it needs janitorial service, that's our primary customer.
Okay. And what about the supply group? Because I know I can just speak. I've ordered I think 1,000 masks, a ton of disinfectant. I mean, we are like stocked for the next like minimum 6 months. And so just the average person can come and buy where?
www.jan-supply.com. So if they go to our website, anybody can buy. It's open to the general public. So we have a lot of residential customers. Again, our primary focus is going to be on those business customers, those office buildings and industrial and all of that, and we can definitely service those clients. But someone from home who wants doesn't want to go out but wants professional grade cleaning chemicals and supplies and toilet paper, we'll deliver it right to your door.
Love it.
All right, welcome to the Think Sales Live speed round. Here we go. What's the best sales advice that you've ever gotten?
Think big.
Oh, that's
all right. There you go. Nice plug.
Right, seriously, right.
No, but it's true. I mean,
it is true.
When
true.
Yeah.
What's the one piece of sales advice you would tell your 20-year-old self to do differently?
Just keep hustling. Just keep pushing forward. Keep. Don't let a no get in your way. It's going to happen, and don't let it knock you down too hard.
All right, finish this sentence. As a salesperson, I need to
stay vigilant.
I love it. I love it. And define resilience as a salesperson.
It's just getting back up. You are going to hear no all the time. You may not be in a market or an industry where you have much to differentiate yourself, but it's your personality and your service and your capabilities that someone's buying from you. So that's the resilience, is making sure that you don't leave the room until the other person understands that you're going to be there for them, and you're the stickiness. You're the one that's going to pull through for them.
You've used a lot of, like, when you're knocked down, get up, type of, and so I want to end from the great sage Rocky Balboa with a quote that he said, which I read this morning in my 75 Hard book. So this episode will be sponsored by Jan Pro, Jan Supply, and Ursula Mullen, who gave me this book, and Rocky Balboa. So and Ursula Mullen, quick plug, at Adobe Real Estate. This is Rocky. The world ain't all sunshine and rainbows. It's a very mean and nasty place, and I don't care how tough you are. It will beat you to your knees and keep you there permanently if you let it. You, me, or nobody is going to hit as hard as life, but it ain't about how hard you hit. It's about how hard you can get hit and keep moving forward, how much you can take and keep moving forward. That's how winning is done. Awesome. And I think that fits the theme of a lot of the stuff, Jared, that you've talked about. I've known you for a long, long time. I think it defines you as a human being as well. You've done an amazing job starting your company from scratch, building an amazing team. And this is just a plug from my perspective. The way that your humility and kindness is, and the way you treat your clients is great. So I wish you continued great success. And I appreciate you being on the show. Tell everybody how to get a hold of you one more time, and then I'll let Jeff close. Absolutely.
So you can reach out to us by phone, 248-936-0300 for either company, 248-936-0300, or www.jan-pro.com, or www.jan-supply.com.
All right.
Yeah, Jared, thank you so much for coming on, and everybody should be inspired by the level of preparedness that you have, and most importantly your resilience. And if there's a takeaway from this, creating loyalty and with clients is one of the major things that I think that anyone who's listening to this should take that to heart. And you're doing an amazing job at it. I commend you on it. So.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much. Thanks for having me. It's been great talking to you this morning.
Yeah. All right. Yeah. All right. Guys.
75 hard.
75 hard. 75 hard. I started over day one today. Whoever wants to join me, hop on. You got anybody in?
No drinking, right?
No drinking. All right. Call me after. We can talk about it. All right. Bye, guys. Jared, thank you. Jeff.
Thanks, Jared.